The first of Jesus' 7 last words come from Luke's Gospel, chapter 23, verse 34. There, as Jesus is hanging on the cross between two criminals, he looks down at his executioners and he says this: "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." What amazing grace of Jesus. He didn't look on his executioners and demand or promise revenge or vengeance. He didn't look down on his executioners and say, "Lord, I turn them over to you." He of course did that, but that's not what he said. No, he looked down at his executioners and he pleaded to God to have mercy on them. He pleaded to God for salvation of the ones who were crucifying him. He pleaded to God for the salvation of those by whom he is most cruelly tormented, as Calvin puts it. Jesus was pleading to God for mercy on these brutal executioners. And he pleads to God for mercy on our behalf as well. I don't know about you, but I find this passage to be incredibly comforting. This is an example of what Paul discusses in Romans 8:34, where he speaks of Jesus sitting at the right hand of the Father, interceding on our behalf. Calvin again, he says this: "When Christ saw that his persecutors raged against him with blind fury, he had pity on them and presented himself as their intercessor." Jesus, the intercessor, the great intermediary, even there as he hung dying on the cross. What good news that even when we rage against Jesus with blind fury, when we choose sin, when we turn our backs on him, when we forget him, ignore him, willfully deny him, even when we rage against him with blind fury, Jesus is there at the right hand of God, interceding on our behalf. Some of the last words of a dying man, a man who is covertly arrested, a man who is unjustly tried, a man who is illegally executed, some of his dying words were reserved for pleading for God's pity and mercy on those who would execute him. And with these same words, he repeats over and over again to God the Father on our behalf. Every time we fall short and turn our backs and turn from God, Jesus is there, saying to the Father time and time again, "Forgive them, forgive them, forgive them."